Hey there, I am back with another deck review, and today we're going to be looking at Charmers from Kellar O'Neil. Kellar O'Neil is a magician and entertainer, and he really brings a classic sensibility to his work. You'll always see him in a full tuxedo, and very reminiscent of those classic Victorian era performers. He goes by the nickname Southern Charmers, hence the name of the deck. And so when he wanted to produce his deck, he went to none other than Lotrek, one of the legends in playing card design. Released the deck on Kickstarter, and here's the result. Now we're going to be looking at the two standard versions of the deck, the green and the purple. You'll also find a red version, a gilded version, and a light blue signature version. We'll be looking at the two standard versions for this one. Now, we'll be looking at both versions kind of together, but we're going to start out here real quick with the green version. The tuck case was printed by Oath Playing Cards and by Lotrek. He always does impeccable work on his tuck cases, and this one's no exception. It's printed on this green matte cardstock, and it's covered with black and gold foil and really deep embossing throughout. You can see that shine really gives it this elevated feel to it. Still have the classic feel incorporated with that Victorian font with Charmers emblazoned across there. And then lots of scroll work all around and on the edges of the frame that sort of makes up the borders of the front of it. You have the TSC for the Southern Charmer, Kellar's nickname, as a monogram there at the top, a couple little bells at the bottom, and then premium quality playing cards. One of the features I really like about the embossing is this very subtle kind of corrugated cardboard feel here. Really fills in that blank space. Interesting feel to it without it being like so in your face. So I really like that subtle but really nice addition right there. Now the purple one features a lot of the same elements, pretty much the same design, but you can probably see here the foil color is slightly different. So whereas here you have more of a yellow gold, on the purple you have kind of a rose gold coloring. They both look really nice. I think between the two, I'd probably go with the purple being the slightly nicer of them, but they're both fantastic color combinations. Now turning to the sides of the decks, you've got Kellar O'Neil on one side and his nickname, the Southern Charmer, on the other. The bottom gives you some ad copy. We've already talked about Lotrek and Oath Playing Cards, both mentioned, but here you can also see the cards themselves are printed in Belgium by Cardamundi. The top has the Oath logo there in the center, so you got Oath Playing Cards credited on the top of the tuck case. And the back gives you a look at the back design in the cards in that really brilliant foil and embossing. Look more at the details of that in a second. And as you open up the inner flaps, you'll see one of Kellar's taglines, "Keep the Wonder," there on the inner flap. And then the inner tuck is printed with brilliant damask pattern foiled in there. The purple has this sort of magenta or pink color, and then the green has green foil against green. Both really striking, but again, I like the contrast of that magenta on purple a little bit better. But both tuck cases look fantastic. So that is the look at the tuck cases. Now let's get a look at the cards themselves, and we'll start with the back design. And here they are. Once again, you'll see they're very similar with a couple of exceptions. So the green one here is done against a green background, although you can't see much of it because it's covered in foil. Tons of gold foil throughout this. And it's really impressive to me with how much foil there is. As you look really closely at this, you can really make out tons of fine details. You have the TSC Southern Charmer logo there in the top and the bottom on this two-way back design. The sunburst pattern with really fine points going all the way through. Background with tiny diamonds against that green background. And then that ornate gold frame that forms the outside. I love the additions of the corners there that sort of break the classic boundary. Just lots of beautiful detail in this one. Cardamundi always does a phenomenal job with foiling on their cards. You have his tagline there, "Keep the Wonder," on the sides. A little bit of white scroll work there in the middle, just as a nice contrast. And then the nice thin white poker border around the edge. I think my only knock is I wish the green had been able to pop out a little bit more. There's definitely a lot of foil that's impressive, elegant, and I love that about the deck, but I think I would have appreciated a little bit more of the green coming through. Turning to the purple, more of the same details, slightly different foil color once again, and then the green's been swapped, of course, for purple. So there are your back designs. Now let's put the purple aside because we're gonna look now at the cards, and really the cards are the same between the two, the card faces. So we'll start out with the two Jokers, another fun addition. Just like the backs of the cards, these as well are gold foiled. Every single card has elements of gold foil on it. They feature a similar primary element, this frame or mirror around the back, all done in ornate gold with accents of black and red. Love the little scrolls and flourishes going all the way through. You have kind of a club made up there at the top, the TSC logo there at the bottom, and then Joker. One of them features the Joker kind of poking his head out of that circle in the center, very classic Jester style. And the other one has silver foil, almost emulating a mirror, maybe sending the message that whoever's holding the cards, you are the other Joker. It's kind of a funny addition. Doesn't quite form a mirror finish, as you can see there, but it's a cool kind of tongue-in-cheek look at the second Joker. Fitting for a Magician's deck of cards, but you get a pair of gaff cards in this one as well. You get a double backer and a double facer that has the Jack of Clubs on one side and Seven of Clubs on one side and Jack of Hearts on the other. So extra cards, nice addition for a Magician's deck. Now into the rest of the deck. Starting with the Ace of Spades, more brilliant gold foil on the power ace of the deck. You have that kind of skinny spade pip, very classic shape, but with lots of extra ornamentation around it. TSC emblem there in the center once more, and then lots of just nicely done little flourishes and swirls to keep it interesting with those hits of gold foil throughout. You got Charmer's name of the deck at the top, and then Oath playing cards to design the deck down there at the bottom. The fairly classic, familiar and yet custom pip and index there in the corner, long skinny index, and then kind of a squatter, smaller pip. And you'll see right away that they're lined in more gold foil, really just helping them pop out that much more. So beautifully done Ace of Spades. The other three aces are all much more standard, just feature the smaller pip in the center, but you'll see again, those center pips are lined in more gold foil. So beautiful set of aces. The number cards are all pretty classic. I mean, custom pips for sure, definitely a different shape pip. They're all obviously lined in that gold foil again to give them that extra bit of pop, but otherwise nothing too out of the ordinary on these. A fairly standard layout, pretty standard size pips, maybe a little bit smaller than like a bicycle pip, but nothing too out of the ordinary on the number cards. They're just nice, elegantly done, functional cards in my opinion. So that is the number cards, and then we get into the quartz. Now, if you've seen Lotrek's work before, you'll recognize his style immediately on the quartz. Big, bold lines, very bold shading around the faces, but all done on a very classically inspired court style. So the poses, the items in their hands, the crowns, the hair are all going to be familiar to your bicycle style quartz, but they're completely redrawn and given new life by Lotrek. The color scheme, of course, is beautifully done. Tons of gold foil, like over the top amounts of gold foil to accent these throughout. And so it's done in, instead of the red, yellow, blue that you'd see on a classic, it's done in red, more of this pale blue, turquoise kind of color, and then gold instead of the yellow. Really beautifully designed. And I will say, of all this, as impressive as the gold foil is, I may like the little hits of blue best of all. It's such an unexpected color to find on the quartz. And so that may actually be my favorite of the three colors. But otherwise, as you go through these, they're going to be familiar and yet elevated at the same time. So there's your diamond quartz into your clubs. Get a little tilt here so you can see some of that gold foil shining, and then into the hearts. So classic Lotrek work, but really given a beautiful feel on these two-way borderless court cards in the Charmer's deck. So that is it. That is the deck. Now, as far as handling, one of the things that I always love about Cardamundi, so a lot of times when you get a foiled deck, especially if it's foiled on both faces and backs, it'll kind of suffer a little bit in fans and handling. These do not one bit whatsoever. Cardamundis, because of their cold foil process, really does a great job. Now, these are done on their slimline stock with that true linen B9 finish. It's what they do most of their cards on, and it's really fantastic. Super thin cards, incredibly soft, handle really well right out of the box. Fans, everything are going to work great on these. So no complaints at all on the handling. This is my favorite stock and finish to use on any deck. So definitely recommended in that front. Now, as far as uses of the deck, you know, it's a deck designed by a magician. So obviously you're going to see a deck that's going to be really suitable for an elevated upscale magic routine. Would be great for the same for, you know, a high-end card game. I think it would really add that extra touch of class. And I think that's really where it's going to find its niche. Certainly handles well enough to be used for cardistry, maybe a little bit too much going on for cardistry where maybe you want simpler block designs. Although I will say that gold flashing as you flip the decks around like packet cuts would look interesting. But magic and gameplay, I think, is really where you're going to want to keep this. So that is it. That is the look at the Charmers deck from Kellar O'Neil and Lotrek. I think they did an absolutely fantastic job, really upscale, beautiful deck of cards, and one I highly recommend. No regrets picking this one up. So if you want to pick one up for yourself, I'll put a link down in the description where you can get one on Kellar O'Neil's website. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews and unboxings, and I'll see you for the next one.